Are you part of the solution? Is that really what you're called to do? Right?
Yeah.
Because if you have not sold yourself on who you are, you're going to end this interview and nothing is going to change for you.
And if it's not who you are right now, don't despair. What I've just done is unlocked a new possibility for you. Once you have that, then the reticular activating system in the brain starts looking for things to confirm it. Do not denigrate yourself for not being in the space that you know that you are capable of. But in the big book, Bill W. says, all progress starts by telling the truth. Next thing after that is once you're honest with yourself, is like, what's the one thing I can do right now to reconnect with my vision, with my soul?
Welcome to Unreasonable Autonomy. My name is Sarah Grace. This is the podcast for entrepreneurs and innovators who refuse to settle. Here we dive deep into raw, real conversations with boundary pushers who have pursued seemingly impossible ideas and yet have achieved unreasonable results, whether that's in their faith, relationships, health, politics, yes, even business. All of those conversations are happening right here, right now. So let's buckle up because this isn't about playing it safe. Unreasonable ideas, unstoppable results. Let's go. Brody Lee lives inside a single powerful question. What if every time we do business, something good happens in the world? Brody is an entrepreneur, strategist, and architect of high-impact sales events. With a track record of helping businesses generate millions through live and virtual events, he has built a consulting empire that turns events into revenue machines with his company, eventsconsulting.co. He and his team have supported over 1,400 events, helped clients generate in excess of 125 million with live and virtual events with over 50,000 hours of stage time, and have directly impacted over 5 million lives through his professional work and his philanthropy. His expertise spans across scaling, sales psychology, and high converting experiences, making him a sought-after leader in the industry. But Brody isn't just building businesses. He's engineering a movement of revolutions disguised as gatherings. He operates with precision, vision, and an unshakable belief in the impossible, helping clients break through revenue ceilings and achieve exponential growth. His company runs on systems, strategy, and scale, allowing him to focus on high-level consulting, research-driven event innovation, and long-term legacy building. When he's not transforming businesses, he's exploring the frontiers of human potential, reality distortion, and next-level experiences, including taking events beyond Earth itself. I can't wait for you to hear this conversation. Let's talk with the amazing Brody Lee. You guys, welcome back to the podcast. My energy is next level today because one of my most favorite humans on the planet is gracing the stage today. You guys, the amazing Brody Lee is here. Brody, hello.
Hi, everyone. Oh my God, I'm so excited for this as well because you are one of my most favorite human beings on the planet. And, when we first connected, it was like this energy sparking. And so I just know that today we're just going to pop off together. So thanks for having me.
Oh, I am just honored. And we have had to make schedules align and make, like all the worlds align, I swear, in order for our times to match up because you are just on fire right now. You are on
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Months ago, lots of good things. And to our listeners, I would highly, highly, highly recommend that if you are listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, that you turn it off and go over to YouTube because there is something about the presence of Brody. Okay. You have got to understand what it's like to be in the room with him, to learn from him, to engage with him, because he is the master of events. I don't care if it's online. I don't care if it's in person. There is something about the presence of Brody Lee that you do not want to miss. So this is your permission. Turn off Spotify, turn off Apple Podcasts. You are going to want to experience him in person. Okay. Fair warning. Fair warning.
Yes, this is so lovely because I've never heard of someone that actually says this is your permission slip to get off a platform and go to another one, because you want to get you want to get people, the listeners, to go through the end. So I promise not to disappoint everyone. Get across to YouTube, and we're gonna have a blast together.
100%. I'm a terrible marketer in this moment. I'm making you do like multiple things at once. Like, that's the worst thing to do ever. Okay, we have got to dive straight in. So let me just tell you a little bit about how I know Brody, and then we'll let him set the stage on, we've heard your bio, you're incredible, cool stuff. But like, how did I get to know Brody, right? We just pretty much connected online. It's like saying, oh, we met on some weird platform, whatever. But we connected online and we met together for we had like 15 or 20 minutes. Okay. And by the end of those 15 minutes with you, I thought, I am dreaming small. That was my feeling. I am dreaming small. I am meant for something else. And so selfishly, I'm like, I want your phone number. I want to be able to text you. I want to be able to send voice messages back, which we have done.
We have done it. Some of them are like, they've ended up being like 5-minute, 6-minute voice notes because we're just popping off with each other. So it's been a blast getting to know you as well. And I know, I got off that call with my team and I'm like, who is this woman? Like, we need to be in her world more and everything. So I'm glad that we finally got to do this. And let's have some fun.
Let's have some fun. Let's have some fun. And my hope is that those listening today will experience that same thing. And I have no doubt that they will. They will leave being like, I'm playing small. I am not going after what I feel called to do. And I actually feel hopeful that what I feel so drawn to is possible for me. So set the stage for those people who are like, I am new to this whole world of Brody Lee. I see him on YouTube. I want more of this. Like, how did you get into the world of events, whether virtual or in person? Set the stage for us.
Yeah, okay. So talking of stages, imagine the biggest stage in the world, Steve Jobs doing massive product launches, launching new variations of the iPhone or Macs and all that sort of stuff. I used to work for Apple and I trained their leadership executive and retail teams on how to sell one-to-many. So Steve would do these big product launches, and then Apple, known for their one-to-one selling, had a very quality problem, millions of people coming into the retail stores. And, Steve had really redefined retail by getting you that one-on-one support. But suddenly it's like, we can't do this the same way that we used to do it. So when I came on board at Apple, the product launches were already happening and whatnot. And I was working for the Canadian market and I worked my way up and we trained people on how to do this really effectively. So we'd have one specialist at the foot of a table with like 40, 50 people standing around the table doing a demonstration, really a sales conversation with everyone there to enroll them in purchasing the product, so that people were comfortable in making that high ticket buying decision. Like, iPhones are not cheap, right? And so I was kind of like a train the trainer that trains the team. I trained the teams as well. And it was just a remarkable experience, like remarkable. And I'm very blessed to have been there at the time when Steve was there and post Steve as well. And so I got to see the transition and all that sort of stuff. But let's go real deep for a second, because it wasn't all roses and prettiness and rose-colored glasses, because on May 23 in 2017, I woke up from a massive drug overdose that should have killed me. And when I woke up from this drug overdose, there was my mum, my dad, a paramedic, and a police officer all looking down at me. And I had this kind of supreme moment of clarity in my life and this thought process that went through my head. Brody, is this really how you want to live your life? And what came out of my mouth was a very involuntary bleep no. I know that you're going to beep it out. So very, very, and it was his visceral reaction that was like, that just kind of came out. And, they were thinking that I was saying like F no to them, but it was actually like to this question that I had internally. And so I had to clean myself up. And, I made a decision kind of in the weeks that followed that I needed to figure out what was happening in my mind, body, and spirit and soul. So just a quick little backstory. When I was 18, I left home. I moved away from my hometown to the big city of Sydney in Australia. And within 1 week, I started smoking meth. And it was the first drug that I had ever tried. And, that's hardcore stuff, right? Like, it's really, really, it's like most people, weed was the last one I tried. So I kind of did everything in reverse. And what I didn't know at the time, and I used every day for about 6 years. I had 2 stints in rehab from 18 to 24, didn't obviously work. And what I didn't know at the time, and was not present to me until the 3 months prior to the overdose, when I started getting these really violent and disconnected memories that I could not place, and they were jumbled, they were not complete, and it was scary stuff. Like, I was fearful. I would wake up in pools of sweat. I would be shaking. And the other part of all of this is that I didn't trust myself or the memories because I couldn't make sense of them. And so I was in therapy at the time to figure out if I'd been sexually abused. And it became very apparent that I had. And even with all of the jumbledness, and one of the things that I was really scared about was that I never wanted to make an accusation that if I had absolute certainty and proof, like I couldn't do it. And so I spiraled out and I relapsed on meth. I had some time up. I was still drinking and partying and doing some other things, but that was the one thing that I had a little bit of a break from. And I I couldn't cope. I spiraled, right? And so I couldn't make sense of all of this. And despite having everything on paper, right, like, this amazing career with Apple, all that sort of stuff,
Right.
internally, what was happening was I was being driven by a 6-year-old boy for 25 years of my life, from the age of 6 through the age of 31. And I had no idea that it was happening. And so in school, I developed these coping mechanisms of being the star pupil, because the little 6-year-old boy thought that teachers were a threat. So I became valedictorian. I did like Model United Nations assemblies. I did youth parliament. I was like a social justice warrior. We raised money for charity in school and everything. And then when I left that environment, what we've now known, like through lots of therapy, is that my nervous system finally got to relax, right? And so then I went the other spectrum. I started using because my body needed something to soothe and to deal with this stuff that was deeply, deeply, deeply buried. And I have a lot of respect now. I've come to terms, obviously, with everything that I did to my body, but I have a lot of respect for people that are using drugs. A lot of people like really denigrate them and say that that they're drains on society, and there's a lot of stigma and judgment around it. But some people say that like drug use is a slow suicide, right? It's a slow march to suicide. But the way I look at it now is that those people that are using drugs are desperate to hang on to life. They're actually clinging to life because it's the only way they know how to stay alive is by numbing themselves. And so I think there's a lot of bravery in it because it's incredibly dangerous, but the alternative is death. Like the alternative is the actual act of suicide. And so I've got the blessing of my experience is that I have a supreme amount of compassion for people in all stages of their life, because we are all just trying to get through the day, the end of the day.
Yeah.
And so I have this no illusion that this world that we live in is hard. It is tough for people. And we don't get equipped with the skills in school to deal with it. We're taught things like algebra, which are useless unless you're going into a field. We're not taught about emotional resilience, how to have relationships, how to respond to traumatic situations. It's a stain on the education systems around the world. We're prioritizing the wrong things. And so out of this experience, I go on this journey of personal development, and I find myself in rooms like the Landmark Forum, and then I find myself eventually at a Tony Robbins event. And at that Tony Robbins event, everything started being pieced together. First, actually, I went into rehab again, actually. And at the age of 31, I went into this rehab. I paid for it for myself. I did out of my own pocket, really expensive, like $50,000 from my nest egg from Apple. I cashed in all of my shares and stuff. And in that environment, they gave me another label of complex PTSD. And I remember at the time going to the therapist, I said, I get it. I get the diagnosis. But, people with PTSD, there's 3 places they end up. They either end up institutionalized. I'm in an institution right now, so I've checked that off the box. They either end up dead, and I narrowly escaped that, or they end up in jail, and there's no way I'm going there. And so I respect the diagnosis, but that's not my story. I reject it. So I went away and I started doing the personal development stuff because I needed more. I needed to understand myself more. And so I found myself at this Tony Robbins event, and, it was such a beautiful experience for me. Within 10 minutes of arriving, I was like, I found my people. I was dancing at the front, and I was like, wow, this is insane. Like, I used to do this because he creates an experience at his events, right?
Yes.
And I found my tribe. I was dancing and I was carrying on. I walked across 2,000-degree hot coals on night 1, which was insane. And then on day 3, he does this thing called the Dickens process. And what happened at that process was life-changing for me. And it happened at the right time for me as well. Like, I got to give myself credit here as much as I love Tony Robbins. He's not, like, he says, I'm not your guru. And what he means by that is that, like, you've got the stuff inside of you to actually really heal. All he does is kind of educate you and give you a little bit of strategy, right? But I was in the right room at the right time. And the event stuff, we're going to bring that in just a second. And so I got complete with my trauma through that process. I got complete with it all. And then there was this specific moment where I had this another moment of clarity where I was like, if I really want to move forward in my life, I have to forgive my abuser. I have to clean that energy out. And so I'm there standing with this like love, and I set this energy out, and I said, I don't know where you are, but for you to do that to a little boy, You must have been in a supreme amount of pain. And for that, I forgive you. Now, I'm not religious, but what happened next was nothing short of biblical. I had this whoosh go over my body, and all of the weight of the previous 25 years of my life, was 26 years at that point, had just disappeared. And there was some mind moment things that happened next, like in very quick succession. And what I realized for that forgiveness, because I immediately forgave myself in the same process for all the stuff that I'd done to my body, to my family, to like, partying, all that sort of stuff, and the way in which I'd kind of disrespected this beautiful vessel with good reason, because I was self-medicating from trauma, but I forgave myself. And then all of the weight of the world was lifted from my shoulders, and I experienced what I can only describe as pure, unadulterated joy and ecstasy for the first time since I was 6 years old. What happened was, when I was 6 years old, my light was dimmed, like really dimmed down to a little pilot light that was like hanging on, right? And in that moment, when I reconnected with myself, it became like a roaring flame again. And so in the next breath after that whoosh happened and everything, I was like, man, I want every day to feel like this. And if I can do this without any drugs or alcohol in my system, I'm never putting another mind-altering substance in my body ever again. I was on a break at that point, wasn't fully committed to it, but I made the decision, and it was final. And it's now almost 8.5 years since that day. And I have maintained that, and I don't get triggered by it. I can be around people that are drinking and everything, because the decision is so clear for me that I am this beautiful human being. I am a superhero. I have a superhero shirt that I wear very regularly, and I have everything within me in any given moment to get through any situation that is thrown my way. I'm resilient. I am powerful. And then in the next breath, I was like, oh, okay, I want every day to feel like this. And I had this moment of pause, and I'm like, you know what? No, I want everyone to feel like this. I'm not going to gatekeep this feeling. So I made a decision to make my life be about impact, and you'll see the impact shirt that I'm wearing right now. And so from there, I made a decision that I was going to figure out a way to get out into the world and to impact people's lives. And eventually I found myself on a stage, started my business, found myself on stage, my first ever event. Only one person showed up. But here's the cool thing. 7:15, no one was there. 7:00, no one was there. 7:15, one person walked in, and I wanted to die. I was sweating. I was like, this is the end of the world. I don't want to do this. But I sat down with this guy, and by the end of the 3 hours, I made my first. Well, it wasn't my first client at that point, sorry, but it was my first event sale in this industry of $20,000, and it set up this trajectory. $100,000 in my first 10 weeks in my business, which was more than I'd earned previously when I was at Apple. $333,000 in my first 6 months, $1.3 million in my first year of business. And I went on in 2020 to create $1 million virtual event during the middle of the pandemic, before virtual events were a thing, $3.5 million business through events. And then I walked away from that business because there was some misalignment in terms of what I was doing for like the people that I was helping. And I went full throttle into supporting people with events. And we have done some phenomenal things: 1,400 events, 125 million in client revenue, 15,000 hours of stage time, and 5 million lives changed from the work that we've done through the events and our philanthropy. And I am in my element. I'm in my zone. Hasn't been easy. I had the highs and the lows, but I'm so blessed and grateful. I have this really deep reverence for events, because we've been connecting, communicating, and engaging in commerce for 300,000 years, and we're hardwired for community. And so we've been connecting, communicating, engaging in commerce for all of this time. And I don't know, like most internet marketing strategies have been around for 25 years.
Right.
But Tony Robbins has been doing the same event for 40 years. And, the church has been doing the same event every Sunday. Like I said, not religious, but every Sunday at millions of locations around the world. People show up, they give over 10% of their salary. And the dude that started that's dead. Sometimes this gets me into trouble when I talk about this, but it is true. The church is the most powerful events organization in the world. And so for me now, given a choice between an internet marketing strategy that's been around for 25 years, or an event, Tony Robbins has done the same event for 40 years, the church for 2,025 years, humans have been gathering for forever, I'm going to choose the one where people are actually hardwired for over another strategy, because I think it's, when you speak from stage, you help rewire neural pathways and you evolve the human race. And that's a really, really profound and incredible place to be in. So that is my spiel. I'm sorry. I know you said 3 minutes for that, but I needed to get into it so that people got the energy and the fire here.
Well, and I think we could take 3 hours of that. Why at the end of 3 hours sitting with you, you made 20 grand? Like, you can just see, right, part of the process and how that happens. And I want to back up to a moment in your story where I think my listeners are stuck. Okay.
Okay.
And you talk about the idea that you are not religious. I am religious, so this is perfect that we are in the same world together. Okay. And I would also dare say that I also am in the event space. And so we could also be considered competitors, right? So like listen up, listeners, right?
Yeah, friendly competitors.
Like we are dear friends for life. So here is my question is when you talked about I accessed forgiveness, like there was this whoosh of me forgiving my abuser, which I am so sorry that that is part of your story. I'm so sorry.
Thanks.
And in comparison or in contrast to that, you also experience this whoosh of forgiveness for self, right?
Yeah.
Every single listener that is listening to this today is an entrepreneur that has some sort of a past. And whether that is a past of them making mistakes or it is a past of someone else making mistakes that deeply impacted them, forgiveness is hard to come by. And those experiences of it actually like really legitimately being released are so incredibly rare. So what is the secret there? You know, in the religious space, we talk about, you know, the atonement, accessing God's grace or the atonement or mercy, or those are some of the words that we use. But how can our listeners better access that kind of whoosh moment if they are stuck?
Okay, so there's two concepts I want to weave in here. So I say that I'm not religious, but I was actually raised Buddhist. And my parents, with a bunch of other hippies in the 70s, found this particular strand of Buddhism that was very secular and not woo-woo. There's two strands of Buddhism. There's Mahayana, which is a little bit more on the woo side, and there's Theravada, which is kind of like more direct to the Buddha's teachings. And so growing up, I learned about meditation and mindfulness and all that sort of stuff, and watching the breath and the thoughts and those sorts of things. And the Buddha teaches something really, really profound. My mother used to say that life is suffering. Life is suffering. It was drilled into my head at a young age. And I really reacted to that in a violent way because it seemed so pessimistic. And that was just her way of communicating something that the Buddha taught. And that is that suffering exists. And what he says is that, you know, we experience joy and we long for the joy to stay. We all had that, like we're excited, we want this joy to be there forever and we feel incredible. And then we experience sadness and we long for the sadness to disappear. We sit in the longing, and he said the suffering exists in the longing. And so what happens then is that if we're in an environment where we're longing to be out of a place, or we've got a mindset thing going on, is that we actually create the suffering for ourselves. No one else does. No situation creates suffering for you. It's how you are in reaction to that. And he says, if you pause and you have no expectation of it ending and you just sit in the sadness, there can actually be richness in the sadness. Whew. Like how empowering is that to be able to release longing and sit in the richness of an experience? You are powerful beyond measure. There is a 1 in 1 trillion chance that you are here on this planet. And so what I share with people is that now I'm at a place of, if I think about I know you're religious, but into this contrast a little bit, from an evolutionary point of view, we talk about 13.8 billion years of evolution since the Big Bang. If we were to compress all of that time into a 24-hour period, you and I exist on this little speck of dust floating around a ball of gas in this infinite expanding universe for a blip, like for a mere blip. It is 1/1 trillionth of a millisecond to midnight that we are here. And so if we are only here for a blip, do I want to spend my time in suffering that I can actually resolve by releasing it? Or do I want to spend my life being in the service of others and having a genuine impact on their lives? And in so doing, our only evolutionary purpose as a species is we were put on this planet for a very specific reason, and that is to evolve the human race, like to actually evolve the species, the animal of human beings. And so when we sit in suffering, it alters the neural pathways in your brain. And it actually, when you then procreate, for example, that neural pathway gets passed down, and then the suffering gets passed down generationally. That's like intergenerational trauma, right? And so we need to flip that script so that we are evolving the human race in a really powerful way. Now, here's the really cool thing. Your experiences are what make you rich. Your experiences are the things that make you whole and complete as a human being, but how you respond to them determines how we evolve as a human race. And so for myself, when I'm in those moments of suffering, the reality is that I have a choice to let it affect me. And this is not discounting the horrible thing that happened to me. It was awful. Right. And that should not happen in the world on any level. It's one of the reasons, from a philanthropy point of view, we help rescue kids from sex trafficking in our business. We have a whole range of different things that we do. However, you control the outcome. You control your experience post that event. And so it's hard. It requires work. But when I'm in those moments, and don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect with this. I slipped, right? I get back into those moments. But going back to those Buddhist thoughts, right? If you catch the moment, if you catch yourself in that space, you have the ability to change your state instantly, your physiology, your focus, your meaning, the things that Tony Robbins talks about. And when you catch it, you build the muscle around it. You build the muscle of catching it earlier. And if to the point of the Buddha, when you're looking at this, if you can look at it without judgment and just experience it, it releases everything around it. You go, oh, this is interesting. I wonder why this is happening, right?
I'm just completely fascinated by how you bring in so much of how you grew up, right? And the examples that you were brought there. And you were like, there is something to this. There is something to what Buddhists are teaching, right? There is something here. There is truth here. And you even in a business sense, you brought in earlier, like churches are growing. Churches are gathering. Churches are converting people. And then
converting, right? Okay. Like, if you think about conversion from a business point of view, it's no different from conversion in terms of a religious point of view. A sales conversation happens, right? You have a sales conversation with your priest, with your bishop, with whoever it is, with your imam, whoever it is in whatever religion, right? And they're selling you on the promise of a better future. And that's all you're doing in business as well. Right.
Yes. So, and I just want to continue this conversation because I think for all of my religious friends out there, this is part of where we get stuck is we don't dare look at our religion through the eyes of business. Right. And yet you learn so much about conversion and about helping people take steps to better their lives and how to get people to gather and how to get people to, change beliefs. If you looked in the Bible. Like you could find some stuff in there, or if you read the Quran, or if there is truth that's happening there, like businesses in the Bible. Brad Gibb, my dear friend, finance guy, is like, how to make a ton of money and be wealthy. It's in the Bible, people. It's in the Bible. And I'm like, no, it's not. No, it's not. Well, sit with Brad Gibb for an hour. And all of a sudden you're going to be like, I've never read this book before. Right. It's fascinating. So don't be afraid of there is something when you're sitting in your pew, there is something happening that is going to teach you about the principles of business and growth and impact, right? Like, don't be afraid of it. There's truth everywhere.
Yes.
Right?
And the other thing for me is that test your experience with it as well, right? Like do muscle testing around how does this align for me and how does this fit for me? No one size fits all. Like I'm no longer like a practicing Buddhist, but the values that I learned, my top value is integrity. My second one is honesty. My third one is generosity. I directly attributed to my experience of being raised that way within the religion, right? And my parents being really, really good at getting that drilled into us at a really young age. That carries over right into the business now. And so I'm constantly testing myself and the teachings around it in how I approach business. And this is the other thing from a contextual point of view, there is no right answer. This is the thing. We're all just trying to figure this out together. But if you got to just keep muscle testing what's in alignment with my values. You can have teachers that say that you got to do this thing a certain way, that thing a certain way. No one can tell you what integrity means for you. Integrity in business, in life, and all that sort of stuff too. So this is an incredible conversation. I could, like you said, 3 hours. We could keep going on.
Join us for part 7 of Brody Lee, right? I mean, we're going to make it happen. I'm like, we should just go on a plane and just talk for 7 hours, record the whole thing, and release it. We're going to do it.
Oh, let's do it. Let's hire a jet and do that sometime. Maybe we can invite people up with us and we can have a whole mastermind experience. Sold.
Don't you think? Okay, sold. Yeah, we'll put the link in the comments. Everybody.
Sold.
Sold. Well, and let's talk a little bit about this whole idea of selling. Okay, we've talked about it through a religious lens and through how do I sell myself into an experience of forgiveness and of peace, and you have so much depth there. What is it about the power of live events, okay, whether that is virtual or in person, that really makes selling be brought home, as opposed to a VSL or as opposed to a sales page or any other kind of experience? What is it about that uniquely that has you so ingrained that this is my path right now?
Okay, so first of all, what I need to say is that all strategies work. All strategies work. There is nothing wrong with any strategies. Anyone that says virtual events are dead, webinars are dead, they're just trying to sell you on their wares, right? And I'm going to try and sell you on my wares right now in this answer. is that what's different about this, actually, just step back for 1 second. You said selling yourself on yourself, right? Let me just talk about that for a quick second. Is that for any sales conversation to be true and for the outcome to be met, where somebody takes that step over what I call the line of decision demarcation, for anyone to take that step, you need to sell yourself on you first and have absolute rock solid certainty that you can deliver for that person if they are the right fit for you, before you can actually sell them into your thing, right? So how we do that at events, and this is why events are so powerful, is that it's a process of selling people on themselves first. So that I can do the thing. We talk about objections in sales, right? There's what we call the vehicle objection. I don't know if this strategy is right for me to be able to get the results I want. There's the internal objection of I don't know if I can do this. And then there's external stuff, which are smoke screens for the other two. I call them the BS objections: time, money, spouse, business partner, those things that people throw out as because they don't really want to say what's really going on. Most objections actually really come into the internal one. The vehicle objection of I don't know if this strategy will work for me is actually me saying I don't know if I will apply this strategy or I can apply this strategy and make it work for me because I'm not that sold on myself. So why events are so powerful, you think about this, you have a sales call with somebody for 45 minutes across Zoom, right? How much do you really get to know that human being? And how much do you really get to get into their world and understand if what your services are right for you? You've just met them for 45 minutes. That's not a lot of time for people.
Even sorry to interrupt you, even if you know them kind of well, right? You will not get deep enough. You will not get deep enough to be confident to know you can help them.
Absolutely. And so we talk about this thing called time on brand. That's the most important thing in terms of getting conversions. Google, I think, analyzed sales stuff and they said people need 22 touch points with you before they're ready to make a purchasing decision. So if people spend more time with you, the likelihood is that, remember that evolutionary stuff that I was talking about, the neural pathways are wiring and rewiring to be able to create new possibilities for them. In the container of an event, you hold them in the palm of your hand. That's why I have a lot of respect for the art of speaking, selling from stage, all that sort of stuff. And you have the capacity to support them to alter those neural pathways in the service of their ultimate vision, goal, all that sort of stuff. I don't know in another environment also where energetics play into this as well in the way that live events do. So from a metaphysical point of view, we know that from a science point of view before metaphysics, and then we can go to quantum as well. But from a science point of view, we know that we all have magnetic fields, right, around us. And when people come in connection with each other, what happens is that those magnetic fields interact and positive things happen. Things like we get in there and we have a hug. Somebody asked me the other day, what's the one thing that makes live in-person events better than, say, virtual events? And I said, hugs. And they were like shocked. They're like, what do you mean hugs? And I'm like, well, what happens is that when you hug somebody, you get a release of oxytocin. The dopamine spikes. And suddenly something that you need between 6 and 8 hugs per day to get your natural touch needs met. Just like when you were a child, when you were first born, they put you on your mother's chest or your father's chest, and the massive oxytocin release creates this chemical thing in the mother and the father that I must protect this being. I had a very similar experience when I met my nephew for the first time. It was really, really weird. I was like, I've known him my whole life, and I had this thing come over my body. I'm like, I must protect this child. And then it happened with my 2 nieces after that as well. So in the event environment, the chemicals that are released, hardwired into our bodies, they need to be released for us to grow and for us to connect and all those sorts of things. So that's one piece of it. The second piece of it is that we get to curate an experience for people that changes the way that they view themselves and their business outside of those chemical things, right? And so if I'm in this space, I have a lot of respect for events and a lot of respect for people that come to events. I think that people do most events terribly. And the reason why, there's 6 reasons why, and I'll run through them in a second. But most events you walk into, it's a stuffy conference room with a monotone speaker or a bunch of speakers that are all just trying to sell you something with no attention paid to your actual experience. We've all been to those events. When I think about the costs associated with people being in the room, there's the 3 immediate costs. There's the ticket price, there's the flight, and the accommodation. Sure. There's 3 other costs that people don't discuss, and that is the physical time that they are spending with you. right? The 3 days or whatever it is, my whole analogy of 24 hours, we're here for a blip. Like they could choose to be anywhere else, but they're in the room with you. The second one is the opportunity cost of being away from their business. And so, they could be anywhere, they could be growing their business, but they've chosen to pause and be in the room with you. And the third one, and this is the one that I think is probably missed the most and people don't understand, is the relational cost of them being away from their family, their communities, and all of that sort of stuff. And so when you look at all of that and bring it together, when you put on an event, you got to pay attention to what you're actually doing from their experience. Because when people come into my room, I want them to feel like they have entered a different world so that they can leave all of that behind and they feel like I'm the luckiest person to be here in this room with you. And that power that you have is far superior than any other enrollment conversation you have because of that level of investment that they have of being in the room. And so you got to match that, exceed that investment. And when you do it well, your conversion increases. And also the other part of this is that your churn decreases, the amount of people that cancel their contracts because they've spent more time on brand with you. The know, like, and trust factor is there. And they're more likely, if you do it well and you orchestrate the event well with conversion in mind, people will buy, they will be so happy, they will be clients for life. My goal at a live event is for the clients, the attendees, to do my marketing for me by having such an amazing experience. They just have to tell everyone about it. So that's why live events are better than anything else.
I know. I'm like, sold. That's going to be the conversation of today because I want to be in Brody Lee's world. I am fascinated by how seriously you take events because anybody can book out a hotel and get a room block and find the conference room and set up a whiteboard and, call 5 of their best friends and do an event. And it's called an event. We just saw one of those happen 6 months ago, right? And you walk in and it's just so different compared to other events that I've experienced. And as a mother of 4 children, right, it was a little bit emotional because it is the first day of school for my kids, right? And I'm thinking about this concept that someone is taking seriously my time away from them. And I don't care if you're a male or if you're a female or if you're a husband, if you're a wife, whatever. There are relational costs when you leave and jump on a plane and go attend an event for 3 days, right? There are costs. How does an event actually acknowledge that and increase the value of the event when there is a relational cost? You don't have them bringing their kids with them. You don't how are you doing this?
Actually, I want them to bring their kids. I want them to bring their kids. Here's why. Because I try and put all of my live events in a location where people want to come to. Orlando is a great place for you to do events. Because if you've got kids, they can spend time with your partner in Disney World while you're there changing yourself so you can better support your kids, right? I love that sort of stuff. The other piece to this as well is that when we look at our higher purpose and our higher being and the things that we're put on this planet to do, spending time at this event actually affects the trajectory of your children's lives as well if it's done really well. If it's done poorly, it negatively affects it. Because you've wasted time where you could be with them and nurturing them and educating them. If you walk out of that event feeling like a superhero, you go back into your environment with the kids, you are a different person and you are a better parent for it. I need to sell people on that when they are coming to it, when they're in our world and our advertising, for them to be able to come into the room and feel safe. There's this whole thing about the polyvagal theory and the mirror neuron effect. But polyvagal theory basically says that you're constantly scanning for threats, right? And am I safe in this environment? And so what you need to do is engineer in the environment that level of safety. When people come in, their tensions are high. Am I right? Will I get along with, am I safe here? Will I get along with people here? Will I make connections? Oh, maybe I should go. All that sort of stuff, you got to address it. We use a lot of energy, a lot of movement at our events to get people in their body so that they can do that. And so again, when they leave, they then get to train their kids on that, on how to create safety for their kids. They get to train their kids on the experience. And so, like I said before, I have a deep reverence and respect for it because we're literally moving the human race forward every single time we bring someone in front of us at an event. And you're going to take that real seriously.
Yeah. And I think any entrepreneur here knows that they've gone through ebbs and flows of how seriously they are taking the gatherings in their business, whether it's a webinar, right? Whether it is a live event, whether it's a community that they are running, there's this really fine line in between. I'm taking this so seriously that I am paralyzed and I'm moving really slowly and I'm trying to perfect it versus I'm not taking it seriously in the sense of how much time my people are giving me, and my quality's going down, and I'm getting big churn, like those kinds
I
of
went
things.
through that recently. Like I said, I'm not perfect, right? So I
Yeah.
went through an experience recently where, and look, it's like the reason why I'm on fire at the moment is because the last few weeks have been, especially this last weekend, I just was at this massive event and I had this massive breakthrough for myself. Real honestly, my own personal virtual events that I've been doing solo have not been performing lately. Like I've not been performing. I did one last week. I didn't make a single sale for it, which is from an ego point of view, devastating, right? And
Yep.
then my head goes to a place of, well, I'm incongruent. I can't sell people on this. Ignoring the fact that I've done $1 million virtual event, ignoring the fact that my JV clients, which are my events as well, are doing really well at the moment. I've got a client in the UK. I'm going to soon. They've got like 200 or 300 people live in their room. For another client, a JV partner that's got 800 people in her room in October, also in the UK. Like my events are working, but I had told myself this story. It's not functional. It's not working. It's all this sort of stuff right in the ear. And what I realized through this process, and I got to it over the weekend, is that I have been sitting in since 2020 a prison of virtual events. When I left Tony Robbins' house in March of 2020, got on a plane to go home to Australia, was really weirded out at LAX airport that white people were wearing masks, which I'd never really seen en masse before, get home to Australia. We locked down our borders the very next day, and I can't leave the country for 2 years. Great job by the government at keeping the citizens safe. They nailed their executions. That only 20,000 people died in Australia, of a country of 25 million, through all of COVID. But what the effect of that was that 36 weeks of that year that I had booked on stages, it was my breakout year. I was going to be all over the world. I lost millions of dollars overnight. And then eventually in September, we ran this impact event that I made the $1 million at. But I locked into this cycle of virtual. And I've done live events. I've done intensives since then. But on the weekend, I was like, man, my vision. I was at this event. They did a phenomenal job at the activations. Becca, check him out. He has Creator Hub Live. He is a beast at what he does with that. And it was really inspiring. And I'm like, you know what? I'm upping my game. I got to enhance the vision. And we'll get to impact and vision and stuff in a second. My live event that I'm doing in March has now taken on new legs. Because originally I was thinking like 200 or 300 people in this event, 200 or 300 people. And then at the event, I'm like, no, I'm going to put everything on the line for this, because this is my vision. This is my passion. This is what I was supposed to do originally. And this event, I'm going to do an experiment. I'm in a new country right now. I do not have a massive following here, right? I've built my authority over the last year by doing strategic joint ventures with like people like Alaric Keck from Ad Outreach. He's the guru on YouTube. Taylor Welch from Wealthy Consultant. You know, he used to run a huge business called Traffic and Funnels back in the day, $89 million valuation. He was one of our clients, right? People like this I've been working with. So it's been very strategic. I'm now in this position. Okay, cool. I'm going to go back to the masses with this. So this event, 1,000 people are going to be in that room in March. And I'm going to challenge myself to sell those 1,000 tickets in just 100 days from December 9 through until the event. Now, we are on August 20 right now. As of August 31, so I've got 11 days right now to get myself to a position where I'm ready to start bringing on sponsors. I'm going to give myself 100 days to bring on sponsors. Now, secretly in the back of my mind, I had this question the other day. I'm like, what if I could bring on $1 million worth of sponsorship, which is a goal that I've never accomplished before myself internally. I've had clients that have done it. I'm like, what if I could bring on $1 million in 100 days of sponsorship? And at the same time, what if I did all of this with zero following, zero list, and zero money down from my own pocket? Holy crap. Like crap. I came up with this on the weekend. I was always doing the event. When I did it, I started sweating. And I was like sitting down. I turned around. I was like, oh my God, like what? And then I was like, well, I'm having this reaction. So it's in my nervous system. I have to do it. And so what I'm going to do, and this is I was at Creator Fest, and the whole premise of this event was to help creators become entrepreneurs, because most creators they don't monetize their audiences. And most entrepreneurs don't have the brand of like the following, all that sort of stuff. So I was like, well, I'm the entrepreneur. I stupidly many years ago bought fake followers on Instagram, right? That account's dead. I've started a new account, Brody Lee Live. Follow me live. I'm actually going to build this whole thing live and take you through the whole process of it. And so with all of this, I'm like, everything is on the line now. My credibility is on the line. But the cool thing is that even if I miss the mark, so here's the other piece. The event is called Impact. Obviously, that's the same name as the event that we did in 2020. We embed philanthropy into everything we're doing. And the tagline I've got now is one event, 1 million, one weekend. I'm going to demonstrate that live. I'm also going to help people see the possibility for them to do that as well. Now, as I'm talking about all of this, some people might be getting triggered by the money side of things. I want to just talk to you guys for a second. I believe it's your duty to be filthy rich. Filthy rich. And here's why, is that money is currency. We use the money we make as muscle to invest in worthy causes. I think of mission in three categories. Impact, first of all, the direct impact that you have with your clients every single day. Wealth, because wealth is the currency of impact. It's not about generating the money, it's what you do with it that counts. And the third piece of mission is the most important part. I probably said that, like, they're all important, right? Each of them is the most important part. But contribution, it's what you do with that money that counts. Contribute to yourself first, then your immediate family, then your loved ones, then the community, and then the world. And so we have this statement in our business: what if every time we do business, something good happens in the world? Followed up by my mission is, what if we could make the world work for 100% of humanity 100% of the time without damaging the environment or harming people? Right now, 1% of the world's population have made it work for them. 80% of the world's population live on less than $10 per day. 75% of the world's wealth is concentrated in the top 20%. And as of 2 years ago, the number's actually expanded now. The top 1% have 5 times more wealth than the bottom 80% combined. If you don't think that there's money out there for you, there's 8.5 billion people on the planet that need you, that need your message. And that money that you generate can be used for good. The government's not coming to save you. Sorry, it's not happening, right? And so this is the power of you being in front of your audience, in your zone, all that sort of stuff. We all have a dream. We all have a mission. Right now, we are 1 down and 99 to go. That's the name of my foundation, funnily enough, as well, right? We've made the world work for 1%. Now, you can argue that 1% have damaged the environment and they've harmed people. Some of them have. But there are good examples of people who have not done that and are doing real good with that money. That's the category of 1 that I want to be in. But my mission is to ensure that those other 99% elevate. The cool thing is, it is the best time in history for us to be alive in terms of health outcomes, in terms of wealth. China has lifted more people out of poverty than any other business. Well, China's kind of maybe a business as well. More than any other organization. I said organization again. Wow, that's interesting that I'm talking about a country as a business. But more than any other country in the world, they lifted more people out of poverty in the last 50 years. That's actually a good sign. Wealth inequality there is a big divide, absolutely. And so you and I have a responsibility to humanity. Right? We have a responsibility to humanity to change the narrative and ensure that we are lifting people up. Here's another fun fact for the audience here. We know that for every $1 that is invested or given to people below the poverty line, especially if it's just in a direct cash grant, another $5 is created in the economy. So we all know that trickle-down economics has not worked, right? It supports capitalism, and capitalism is great. I love it. It's the best monetary system that we have on the world, but it hasn't worked the way in which it was intended. But when we give these cash grants to people below the poverty line, what they do is they invest in education, they start businesses, they save, right? And then within their local economies, what happens is the money starts getting transferred, and then wealth starts getting generated and it spirals up. And I don't think it's a zero-sum game. You don't just have to win at the top. Everyone can win. And so what happens is that the wealth goes up. So it's not trickle-down economics, it's trickle up. And you play a real pivotal role in that. So you better lock in.
And I am just so inspired here. And I hope everybody takes a minute to pause. Like, if you need to pause YouTube, because all of you are on YouTube right now, right? You need to pause YouTube right now and actually ask yourself, is what Brody's saying about me true? Are you part of the solution? Is that really what you're called to do? Right? Yeah. Because if you have not sold yourself on who you are, you're going to end this interview and nothing is going to change for you. And you're going to rely on the government, and you're going to rely on the economy, and you're going to rely on the housing market, whatever it is that you feel like you are waiting for to come and save you. That is going to continue to be your trajectory. And my job here is Sarah, and Brody's job here is Brody, is to help you move, right? Is to help you move and act and change and flip and do those things because you have been called to do it. You wouldn't be listening to this random podcast if you weren't, right? So take a minute, like Brody would say, muscle test this and say, is this who I am? Because something needs to change right now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And if it's not who you are right now, don't despair. What I've just done is unlocked a new possibility for you, whatever that is, hopefully, right? That's hopefully the this conversation is for you to like see something different from a different viewpoint. And once you have that, then the reticular activating system in the brain starts looking for things to confirm it. So if you're not there right now, be very, very careful. Do not denigrate yourself for not being in the space that you know that you are capable of, but take one small action today that will get you closer. Maybe that is pausing and reflecting and doing that analysis. You know, in the big book, in the Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, by the way, when I made that decision never to put another mind-altering substance in my body ever again, I have not attended a Narcotics Anonymous or Alcoholics Anonymous meeting because it was so clear to me that I was done, right? I don't get triggered around that stuff anymore. But in the big book, Bill W. says, all progress starts by telling the truth.
Yeah.
When you get real with yourself, like I did when I was like, this is not how I want to live my life when I overdosed, right? What's really going on? That's where this all this progression and all that sort of stuff started. The next thing after that is, once you're honest with yourself, is like, what's the one thing I can do right now to reconnect with my vision, with my soul? And here's how to do it. I'm going to give you a sneak peek of this impact event. I have something called the Million-Year Vision. For those of you in the audience, just have a conversation with yourself for a second. Who here has a 1-year vision? Most people do. They have a 1-year plan, right? Yeah, you do. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a 10-year plan? You do. Okay. Do you have a 100-year plan? Do you have a 1,000-year plan? Do you have a million-year plan? And so when I think about this sort of thing, when I say to you, do you have a 1-year plan, or you come up with your 1-year plan, what's the first thing that you start doing after you come up with the plan?
What do I need to do?
What do I need to do? How do I do it? How do I get there? All that sort of stuff. You get into action. But when I ask people about like have you got a 1-million-year plan? The thing that most people think of is, well, why would I do that? And I'm like, and that is the whole point. Simon Sinek says, start with why. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. What would it look like to have a 1-million-year vision? I don't buy into this concept that I'm not going to be here. I want to be here for 1,000 years. Like that's where I'm thinking, right? And Peter Diamandis, by the way, has got the same goal. That's where I stole it from. And he's working on longevity to ensure that happens. You know, we've been living longer than we ever have before, and we're evolving the human species like that. And so my 1-million-year vision is one where, what if the world works for 100% of humanity 100% of the time without damaging the environment or harming people? When you operate from that space, when the dream is so big that you go, what Simon Sinek would call, it's an infinite game, because you don't know, like it's so big that you don't know the outcome yet, but it's worthy of the pursuit. Everything in your life like starts lining up in front of you. That reticular activating starts looking for opportunities that were not there before. And the purpose becomes so much more powerful because you're looking so far beyond where you are right now that it's like it becomes inevitable. It becomes like a string that pulls you forward. In the quantum field, it's already done.
Yeah.
And so,
keep going.
Oh, can I share with you what my 1-million-year vision is, how I'm doing it?
Yes, that's what I was going to ask. Go.
Okay. So randomly, a few years ago, I randomly posted on our Facebook, our business Facebook, one day I'm going to do one of my events in space. And it was like a ha-ha moment. I wasn't really thinking anything of it. And then 1 week later, Ryan, one of my clients, who's now actually building out our event expert AI to help our clients, he sends me an article of a hotel that they are building in space. And my mind was like, oh, damn it, I have to follow through on this now. This is no longer a harebrained idea. I got to do this. And so I started developing this idea. And originally it was like, I'm going to take some people up to this hotel. It costs $3 million for 3.5 days up there. And I'm like, I know enough rich people that have got big enough egos that they like to do this and spend $3 million or whatever. But then after about 6 months, I was like, this is kind of dry, like a business mastermind at a hotel in space. Like,
kind of
that
dry.
story's been told. Like, rich white dude goes to space. I mean, at that point, there were 3 people that had done it. Elon, right? Love him or hate him, right? Half the world loves him, half the world hates him, right?
Sure.
More people hate him these days than they used to. Bezos, people see him as like evil incarnate because of everything and whatnot, but like he's been to space, right? And half the world loves him for what he's done. And then you've got the cool uncle, Richard Branson, that's like everyone loves. Like you can't not like the guy. He's just a really, really cool dude, right? And I'm like, but I don't want to be part of that club. I want to be part of a more powerful club. I want to be a part of a club that literally changes the way in which individual human beings engage with themselves and the world. So I was like, okay, what if we did a modern day Live Aid style event? A Live Aid, for those of you who don't know, was a concert in the 80s that raised money for AIDS. And all of these people like Bono and all that sort of stuff contributed to it and whatnot. And I was like, whew, this is powerful. What if we broadcast it from this hotel in space, and we broadcasted it for 24 hours so that 8.5 billion people on the planet were able to experience this? And what if we united humanity together? And what if, in the same time, we gave them personal development, we gave them entertainment, and we gave them education around things that are happening in the world that they may not be aware of? And then we humbly ask those people to donate to our One Down, 99 to Go Foundation. And we ask them to donate whatever it is, an hour of their wage, a day of their wage, to build up what I'm calling a humanity future fund, like a sovereign wealth fund, but for humanity. And then I was like, I set this impossible thing, or not impossible because it's happening, $10 billion raised, which is about 20, like that. We've done similar type things where, Together at Home during the pandemic, that raised like $400 million. So it's about 20 times more than has ever been raised before in a single day for worthy causes. And I'm like, this is exciting. Like this is like so cool. And then the upgrade on it was, well, how do I give people certainty that their money is not going to be in like any other, that like there's these other, when people donate to charities and stuff like that, a lot of that money gets wasted on running the charity. So I'm going to personally guarantee that 100% of the money that gets donated goes to the worthy cause on the ground, not to the company that's kind of managing it, so that they know the money's going well. And here's and look, like individual donations, sure, but I'm going to get sovereign wealth funds to donate. I'm going to get countries to donate. I'm going to get billionaires to donate as well. So like humanity's pitching in, but we have a responsibility as business owners to contribute back. And like I'm toying it, with AI and stuff like that at the moment. I'm also toying with long-term a privately funded universal basic income. And I think like there's like a usage something for AI, like for the companies. It's like to contribute back into humanity. And in that way we can provide income for people like across the board, across humanity. That's another thing for later on. But this event, we take the $10 billion, we get the smartest minds in finance and investing and everything. They're on our finance board. And then they invest that $10 billion into the capital markets, into sustainable things. And what happens is that historically, they raise that the market returns will give us about $600 million to $1 billion every single year in growth in that humanity future fund. So then the foundation, One Down, 99 to Go, that's filled of a board of effective altruists who don't look at where the heartstrings are for things. They look at where will we get the most social bang for our buck. The actuarials, they're really smart people, and they analyze worthy causes. And then they get $1 billion every year for eternity, because it's invested wisely in the markets, to donate in cash grants and invest in businesses that are doing cool things to move the human race forward. Everybody wins from this. And from there, it's like, the rising tide lifts all boats, that sort of thing.
Yep.
And then from there, like, we get to invest in businesses that have got cool things. Now, I firmly believe that every single person on the planet has at least one big planet-changing idea in them. So what if I could invest in every single person in humanity to bring that to life? And what I'm going to do is make sure that I'm hands-off with the foundation. I'm not going to direct it at all. The only guideline I'm giving them is that they have to donate to sustainable things. They can't do evil things, right? Mm-hmm. And they have to, there's going to be a huge amount of accountability here, but they have to do it under the umbrella of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Ooh. And so that means, like, smart people have said, as a society, we need to hit these goals for us to develop and grow. So there's 17 goals: ending hunger, water and sanitation, like, justice, sexual stuff around like violence and all that sort of thing, climate change. And so they get to do that. And there's a lot of governance that goes into it. There's all these incredible things. But how inspiring will that be for the next generation as well? How impactful will it be for people to see that, we can actually, as a species, unite? Borders don't actually exist. Like, they don't, right? They're a human-made concept. And so this gets to be really cool. And at the same time, in parallel to building that over the next decade, I'm going to build what I call the superhero business, because I do believe that every single person has at least one big planet-changing idea in them. And I don't have the time, I don't have the money. What if people ridicule me? All that sort of stuff kind of stops them from doing it. I don't believe that I can do this. So we put them into a series of events that give them the personal development. Event number 1 is called Dream. Gives them the certainty and confidence that they can pursue it. And this dream that's way, way, way out there, we bring it in at that event and we shape it so it's something that they can actually, they can actually do. The event number 2 is called Hero, because in order to pursue the dream, you've got to activate the hero within, even if you don't believe it fully yet, but hopefully by the end of the first event, they do believe it. And then we help them build the idea to get it to a point where it's ready to go to market. And in event number 3, of course, called Superhero, we teach them how to get their idea in front of the right people so they get the funding and the finance and the venture capitalists. And eventually at that event, we have a Shark Tank style environment. We bring in venture capitalists and they get to pitch their thing to these VCs and get funding to go out and do it. And we're going to help them change the world with that. How amazing is this? So when I talk about million-year vision, guys, think about it. Every single person that I speak to when I talk about this is playing too small at the moment. You have a finite time on the planet to be able to affect change. Do you want to live in suffering or do you want to live in the service of others? Fix nervous with service and you'll always win.
Well, and I hope someone listening has the same experience that I had when I first met you. Oh, I'm living life a little small, just a little small, just a little small. And this isn't some pipe dream, this whole million-year goal that you're talking about, right? This isn't a pipe dream, right? It's really this tool of being able to establish and start to quantify what you want and what is driving you. And what I love about your story is your first idea was event from space. So cool. And then you sat with it and you go, wait, that's kind of boring. And the way that it's been done, this is the key. The way that it's been done already, that's actually not what drives me. I don't want to be the cool uncle. I don't want to be half-hated. I don't want to be, all of those connotations.
Oh, I'm also very much aware that I'll probably be half-hated for doing this because I saw something once. I saw a comment on the post about this hotel in space and somebody commented, dude, we literally just want affordable housing. It's not on my post. It was on their post. And so I've got to enroll the world in this idea as being something that's really powerful. I'm very much aware that I'll probably end up needing security. So, think about politicians, right? Half the world loves them, half the world hates them, and a small percentage on either ends and the fringes want to kill them, right? So I've got to be careful about this sort of stuff. But because here's something that I've been having some conversations with ChatGPT, right? And I asked it the other day, I'm like, tell me an observation you've made about humanity that isn't something regurgitated, that's your own observation. And it came up with something really profound. It said, I don't believe that we actually want freedom as a species, because the minute that we achieve freedom, we start creating rules and things and safeguards around it, right? And so what it said is that we actually want freedom on a leash. And I was like, oh. And it's true though, because when you achieve the freedom, right, you start changing things to get the safety of things again, right? And that's why we It's why we fall into authoritarianism and all those sorts of things politically. And so I think about this and I go, okay, well, if we want freedom, but we want it on a leash, what's happening in society when you present people with an idea that could produce freedom for them, they seize up because it's so far out of the realm of what they believe is possible that they collapse, right? They collapse because it's just and so we've got a job to do to kind of release people from that so that they don't sit in the suffering, to loop back to the beginning here, that is so easy to fall into. And so this whole idea of, let me loop this now back to events. So from an event point of view, our goal, right, is not to be there giving, and this is where I think events are going, right? Not to be giving death by PowerPoint, to be death by content. You're there to help people to create an immersive experience where it releases them from the shackles and the walls that they've put around themselves to stay safe so that they taste freedom, but you provide it in an environment where they feel safe in that freedom. I feel safe in my million-year vision. It's ultimately freeing for me, right? It's scary, but I feel safe at the same time. And then we then get to alter the trajectory of the species because we acknowledge the fact that whilst we want to be free, there's parameters around it. And then when we acknowledge that, that's actually where the freedom exists. Kind of a bit meta there. Yeah.
Brody, we just have been so mind blown. Just so mind blown by who you are, what you bring, and the indescribable energy that you actually believe what you're saying, right? I've done a lot of interviews, right? I've done a lot of things. And sometimes it's a little bit of lip service. And you know this.
Yep,
You
I
run
do.
in the same circles, right?
I
Right.
do.
And versus sitting with someone who actually believes that this is possible. And you believe it and you can't fake it. Like, bravo to you.
Thank you.
Bravo to you.
And bravo to everyone out there that's listened to the end here, but is also just trying to get through the day. I've been where you are. I really hear it. And I really do invite you to believe again and to believe in yourself. And this is the thing. The reason why I'm going to be successful here is because I'm placing a bet on myself. Yeah. I'm betting that all the things that have led me to this moment in time in my life have stacked in a way that makes me into the phenomenon that I really am. And I know that with certainty now. It's locked in. Do I have my days? Yeah, I have my days. I shared with you guys, I had like an ego death last week when something that I'm known for didn't go well. But I am also reminded of the mission. The mission's more important than whatever little things that I'm going through in the moment, because we have such that finite time. We need to edge this human race further and further towards progress. And I want to play a real pivotal role in that. I also want to give a permission slip to people out there. If that's not your journey, just find out what your little thing is in your own little way. What's your next step for you? It doesn't need to be my big, like, I'm going to change the planet, but maybe change your planet, like your little world, and give yourself permission to that being okay as well. But whatever it is, ensure that you're standing in your values, integrity, honesty, and generosity for me, and ensure that whatever you're doing is a net positive contribution to society. When you sit in that place, when you sit in service, anything is possible.
Oh, amen, amen, amen. And dare I just add my own touch to what Brody just said, that do not look past your own home.
Ooh.
Do not look past your own home in the impact, using Brody's word, right? In the impact that you are able to have, as you've seen with Brody and as you've seen here. When you can lock in and make changes in a home, the ripple effect are so much bigger than we will ever be able to comprehend. And so don't think that big means necessarily worldwide. That's what it is for Brody right now, right? That's where A Taste of Mine comes from as well. But again, that permission to say that world may be within the walls of your own home, your own apartment, your own townhouse, your own neighborhood, right? Your own community. And that can change the world. It really can. Thank you to the amazing Brody Lee. I dare say there's going to be a repeat.
Yes, let's do it. Thank you for having me. This has been so much fun. I love this stuff. And I want to just reflect something back to you as well, that like your energy, your vibrance and your vitality has really inspired me as well. And that's why we're friends. That's why we send these voice notes and everything like that. And so I appreciate you, like the grace with it. You've invited me into your world, invited me into your audience as well. It says a lot about who you are. So, guys, make sure that you're giving love to her and giving her all the support you can, because she's a phenomenon in her own right. And going to do really, really incredible things in the world too. And I'm cheering you on from the sidelines.
Incredible. Sold, Brody. Sold.
Sold. Conversion done. Complete.
Conversion done. Brilliant. Well, I just have one final question for you as we wrap up this interview. We ask every single guest, just what is one book every single entrepreneur must read?
Ooh.
It's the meanest question ever.
I want to be very intentional about this, and I'm going to give you two.
You got it.
I'm going to give you two, okay? Because one is about mission, and that is Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And make sure you watch his TED Talk on that as well, right? Start With Why by Simon Sinek has probably been the most powerful book that I've ever read. And the second one is Sapiens, this is a more human one, by Yuval Noah Harari. He is a beast in his research of the human species and why we are the way that we are. And he gives you a historical perspective on like how we evolved. Mind-boggling, like really, really like profound, and helped me really understand my place in the world. And yeah, those two books would be my top two. I've got plenty more, but them they're up there. Yeah.
Top of mind. I will take it. It's going to be next on my Audible list to dive into your world a little bit deeper. Well, thank you to the amazing Brody Lee for just an incredible conversation and for giving us all permission to go after the million-year dream. And I have no doubt that we will see that iconic event happening from space in the next 10 years because of who you are and where you're headed. Thank you so much again, Brody. Thanks for being
so
here.
much for having me. You're amazing.
Thank you for listening to the Unreasonable Autonomy podcast. If you loved this episode, my guests and I would love to hear about it. Go to the show notes to reach out and let me know what resonated with you or what topics or guests you want to hear in the future. I am here to create for you. Look, I deeply admire your commitment to pushing boundaries and going after an unreasonable life. Keep dreaming big, taking bold steps, and expecting the unreasonable. For more, go to the show notes to dive deeper into the conversations that will keep you going. Thanks for being here.